This episode of the Baddest Ballers podcast is brought to you by Spaceship Apparel. Gear so fresh, it's out of this world. SpaceshipApparel.com. All right. Thank you for tuning in to the Baddest Ballers podcast. I have special guests with me today, CJ Toledano. Is that
Toldano, yeah.
Toldano? Okay, I'm sorry. I knew I was going to mess
No, no, it was a good try. It was a great try, and it was closer than most people.
All right. Do you just want to start off with a little bit of background on yourself, CJ?
Yeah, so I'm the creative director for House of Highlights. Also was the co-host with Omar Raja for the first season of the House of Highlights Twitter show. Was a stand-up comedian for 12 years, writer. And yeah, so I make a lot of the original content that you see on the House of Highlights feeds on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. But yeah, I'm sort of like the house comedy guy. So whenever you see like a funny, original piece of content on there, I'm usually responsible for that.
Oh, nice. How did you get started with House of Highlights?
Yeah, I was a TV writer and stand-up comedian for about 12 years. Lived out here in Los Angeles, and I ended up getting a job as the head of creative for the Detroit Pistons about 5 years ago. From there, I created some viral videos for the Pistons and Andre Drummond. Bleacher Report found me, worked at Bleacher Report, then went back to LA to work for the NFL where I launched the Checkdown. And then from there, they brought me back to Bleacher Report to be one of the first people to make original content for House of Highlights. So just celebrated my 2 years with them last week. And yeah, it's been fun.
Oh, so you previously worked for Bleacher Report and you technically work for them again
Yeah.
now under House. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I was there when Bleacher Report sort of launched their, it was called Social Moments. It still is. But it was like, whenever you saw like memes or
Hmm.
what we call head swaps, any sort of like original content reaction to sports news, that was usually myself and my team over there. So yeah, just been doing kind of like creative stuff for sports for the last 5, 6 years.
Oh, nice. And
Yeah.
I actually didn't realize this until after we initially communicated via email. And I was just doing my research a little bit. So you have a sort of a famous wife, Megan Gailey?
Yeah, she's probably in the background. She probably hear this. Yeah, she's a famous wife as you described. She's a comedian. Yeah, seen on Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon doing stand up. Hosts a podcast for Crooked Media called Hysteria, and yeah, we host a podcast together, a sports podcast for iHeartRadio called The Greatest. So, yeah, we met doing comedy about 10 years ago in Chicago, and yeah, I got married this past December, right at the buzzer before everything happened.
Oh, congrats. That's amazing.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, I was actually listening to a bit of your podcast. So who exactly is the greatest? Just
I mean, you want to ask me right now, I think the greatest is, we just watched 10 part documentary about him, but yeah, it's Jordan.
Oh
And
my
maybe
goodness.
it'll be LeBron. Maybe it'll be LeBron when all's said and done. But I think we gotta say the GOAT is Jordan for the moment. So yeah, that's what the podcast is all about. It's about that conversation you have in a bar where people are like, no, this guy's Kobe's the greatest, Jordan's the greatest, or
Right.
Nick Young's the greatest when it comes to fashion. So it tries to cover all those topics, and yeah, a lot of arguing and debating and reminiscing about our favorite sports stuff. So it's
That's
fun.
that's pretty fun. But well, I mean, actually speaking specifically of the greatest in basketball, I know for
Yeah,
you it's Jordan. For me, it's LeBron. Is in your mind, I think for
I
most people it
mean,
is Jordan.
yeah.
Um, for you, is it do you think it's close or is it like James? I'm sorry, Jordan by a mile, sort of?
No, I think it's extremely close. And I am a person of the moment. Like I really like to enjoy the moments. And in 2016 when LeBron pulled off, coming back 3-1, of course he had the help of Kyrie and Kevin Love and the rest of the Cavs, but like
Right.
I don't think Jordan has anything close. I don't think, if we were to go moment by moment, like accomplishments, I think, the titles thing speaks for a lot. I'm not one of those guys where it's all, whoever has the most rings. I think, LeBron making 9 finals, I think just, yeah, that comeback is like nothing in sports like it. And so I
Right.
think it's really close, and like, we'll see what LeBron's got the pieces right now. I don't think he has like the best. I don't think this team he's playing with is one of the best teams or the best team he'll ever play with. Like I only think after this season, whether they win it or not, more stars or more role
Hmm.
players are on their way. So like that'll help his narrative. And if he wins two more, I think if he wins one or two more, it'll be a lot closer in everyone's minds of who had the better career, Mike Jordan or LeBron. But I think it's close.
Yeah, I think this current iteration of the Lakers just maybe just one or two pieces short of being like a surefire favorite. Like right now,
Yeah,
it's to me, it's like it's not like it wouldn't shock me if they won it all. Like it's not like,
yeah.
oh my god, that was crazy, but it also wouldn't surprise me if they didn't even make it to the finals. Honestly, like it's
Yeah, I
either
mean, everyone's getting worried about it right now. Obviously, with the Blazers having a hot start in the bubble. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's also like I didn't think the Lakers were going to beat the Clippers the last two times, So, but there's
that's
always
true.
like
Yeah.
players are sitting out or whatever. So we're gonna finally find out here in the next few months. So, yeah, I just on paper, I think the Clippers are better than the Lakers, but playoff LeBron is a beast that continues to surprise. I don't know why it surprises us every time. I don't know why we're still like the Lakers are going to go out pretty easy after we saw LeBron take that 2018 Cavs team all the way to the finals. Like,
Right.
just you can't discount LeBron in the playoffs. It's really a stupid thing to do
I
if
know he
you're any
just
sort of
another
sports fan.
level. Right,
Yeah,
exactly. Just a whole other level. He just takes it up. Um, I've sort of been predicting, and I say this as probably the biggest LeBron fan in the world right
yeah,
now, but I've sort of been predicting that I feel like he's extremely close to a huge drop off. Like I feel like as
yeah.
much as it pains me, I think like next season, like we're just going to see a totally different LeBron. Like, do you agree with that? Do you think that's
Yeah, I
way
agree with
off?
it. I definitely agree. It's gonna happen at some point. I don't know if any of us are ready for it. Like we saw it with Kobe in that last season. Um, Luckily, there hasn't been like a significant injury to see that, but just like what he's done for 17 years is more impressive than any athlete I've ever
I
seen.
know it's not even human.
And one thing that I think that LeBron has, and Jordan and Kobe both did this to an extent, is they reinvented their game. And I think LeBron's reinvention of his game is adding that 3-point shot, adding, being more of a facilitator. And, he leads the league in assists. It's like, what more else can he do? Obviously, his basketball IQ is there, but what else can he do to prevent that drop off? And I don't know. I'm running out of ideas myself as a LeBron
Right.
stan. I'm excited to see it, but like just in the realm of possibilities, I don't know what that is anymore.
Right. Yeah. Me neither. It's. I don't. It would be incredible if he keeps it up for another couple of years, playing at
Yeah.
the high level that he has been. But it just with every passing year, it just seems like yeah, it's probably gonna be. It's probably gonna be this year. It's probably gonna like. It just seems more and more
But
likely.
listen, number one in the West, he's never done that. Like, people said that once he got out of the East, it wasn't going to be, a cakewalk. But like,
It's true.
a lot of this team, I think I can't remember what analyst said this, but the reason for LeBron being the MVP right now is you take him off that team. Are the Lakers a playoff team? And I don't know. We've seen AD with a similar roster and they've missed the playoffs. So
Right.
I think is the drop off coming? Who knows? But it just in how knowing how the body works, it has to. It has to. I don't know.
Do you think he's the MVP this year?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, really?
I do. I think Giannis is incredible. I just don't think he's had as much stacked against him as LeBron has. Obviously, they're again, if you have AD on your team, it's like having a Giannis on your team. It's like
Right.
a little bit of pressure off him. But LeBron has shut up the critics. He has, with Kobe's passing and with COVID, and I mean, I don't know. Do you if we count the last few games, that may have hurt his momentum for it. But again, maybe this is me being biased, but I think LeBron deserves it, and so does
You
Giannis. But which way is it going to go? I don't know. I think I wouldn't be mad if him or Giannis get it, but we'll see.
you don't think it would be a like a sympathy MVP if he won it this year? Almost. I don't know if that's the right word I would use.
Yeah, no, I mean, but the thing I was talking to my good friend about this too, about these awards and how do they really go to the deserving person, or do they really go towards most storied season.
There's
And,
definitely narrative, so much
you
narrative goes
know,
into it.
it's like Westbrook won that one year, and it was KD had left, and people were counting out the Thunder, and I can't remember, they were like what, like fourth or fifth in the West at the time, but like of course you're gonna have crazy stats, like you're gonna average a triple double
Right.
if the greatest scorer left your team and you were just given the green light to shoot like that and do whatever. So MVP, does that mean best player in the league, like most valuable to their team? I think in the NBA, the way they voted in the last 10 years, it's not. So that's why I could see it going to LeBron over Giannis.
How do you define MVP? Like what's MVP for you?
Yeah, I think it's everything. I think it's are the numbers there? Do they make their team better? And what have they overcome in their personal and public life? And for me, that's LeBron this season. So
Fair enough. Now, have you been watching bubble basketball?
I have, yeah,
You
it's
have.
been fantastic. It's been crazy.
You think it favors any team more so than any others, right? Just like the
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's like, what are we seeing right now? We're seeing an undefeated Suns team. We're seeing
very soon.
we're seeing a rejuvenated Blazers team, rejuvenated, or they just got their pieces back. Getting Nurkic back, Gary Trent Jr. being like playing like a star player. I think the time off helped a lot of people. Obviously, players getting like Jokic coming back fit, like I think a lot of players when COVID and the pandemic hit, a lot of players and teams were able to look at themselves and go, what do we need to improve? How can we take this time to come back at an advantage? And I think a lot of these players did directly what they needed to do.
Right.
So I think that's why everyone is like, man, Lakers facing the Blazers. It's not like, they're fighting for the eighth spot, but really in reality, when they were healthy this whole season, they were a 3-4 spot, you
Right.
know?
Right.
So yes, I think bubble basketball helps. They say shooters are having an incredible time there because just less distractions, and I think that's for real. Obviously, that's not helping a Danny Green out or any of the Lakers, but
Anyone on the Lakers.
and I can't remember who else said. Someone just said like once you're in the bubble for these players, it's nothing but basketball. You can't think about anything else. There's no going away from it. And I think some players are embracing it and some aren't. So I think the bubble basketball, the playoffs are going to be different than anything we've ever seen before. And there's going to be some surprising storylines coming up.
Almost seems like LeBron does better with this, if that's the case, because he's been struggling with
Yeah.
almost making me think that the decline started now. But I mean, it may be premature to say that. But he's been struggling surprisingly.
I would love to hear your thoughts on. I mean, do you think, when they lost that first game to who was it, the Raptors, right after the Clippers game? Because obviously, I think when they beat the Clippers, people are like, it's hard to pick against the Lakers.
Right.
But the second they lost to the Raptors, you have Lakers fans, which I've become one because LeBron went there.
Mm-hmm.
You have Lakers fans going, it's fine. They're not going to take they've clinched the 1 seed after that win against the Jazz. Like these games don't matter. But like, yeah, you can be resting and not playing to your full ability, but you can't go 2 for 15, 2 for 20 from three.
Right.
Exactly. Make a few threes and then sit down,
Right.
So that's what worries me. That's what truly, I don't even, now I've blacked out thinking about whether the Lakers are taking rests or not, and we're not seeing their real selves. But yeah, I can't tell if they're taking these last regular season games seriously or not. We've seen too much LeBron and AD for me to think they don't care,
Right, exactly. And I feel like there's a difference between taking your foot off the gas and just not driving at all. And sometimes it just feels like they're not even driving, like they're not just get out the car and
God,
not
yeah.
even participating almost.
There's just too many open looks that I've seen them miss. Obviously, I'm watching the Lakers a little more closely, but I hope we're not seeing the real them.
Yeah, that would be a bad look for the Lakers, and LeBron specifically. They're probably not going to get too far because but I mean, for some reason they keep beating the Clippers, which is interesting. That's so interesting. The last couple of times that they played the Clippers, I thought it was going to go the other way, but against everyone else in the bubble, they seem to just be a totally different team.
Yeah, I don't know how you can. I mean, the Raptors are incredible. They're one of the. I mean, I think Nick Nurse deserves a Coach of the Year award, and obviously they just play such perfect basketball. Um, but if you're the number one Lakers, you have those two stars and number one in the West. It just shouldn't have been that easy. You shouldn't be down. What was it? They were down like 15-0 in the start of that game, I think, and it's just like play like the Lakers, play like LeBron, play like
Right.
AD. You know.
Should there be bubble awards just so that TJ Warren can get some recognition and get an MVP?
Yeah, again, my wife is a big Hoosier. She's from Indianapolis in Indiana, and yeah, I think I mean we're giving him the love, and TJ Warren is yeah, I mean yeah, we should do bubble awards. Why not? The world is
Right?
crazy. Things aren't normal. Like let's create these specific awards. It's yeah, it's unlike anything I've ever seen. Did they say I didn't even I was checking earlier. Is TJ and Jimmy both playing today?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, but regardless, like I just saw a thing on Reddit, like they could the Heat and Pacers could potentially play 9 times in the next few weeks, and it's like that
Wait,
man.
seriously?
Yeah, if they get matched up in the playoffs, so
Oh, that's right.
that's going to be must see TV. I love that we have so many storylines in the NBA that like that's something we're going to get right off the bat potentially.
No, I just to switch gears a little bit.
Yeah.
Just for the constant, there's always a lot of tension with more modern NBA fans and older NBA fans.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any? Do you have any specific thoughts of basketball today versus older school basketball, like '90s era specifically? Um,
So
Softer today,
yeah,
I guess. All of that stuff.
so I work for House of Highlights, which is I don't know what the outside perspective of it, but I really think it's very Gen Z, very young. It's I would always used to ask our programming team to throw up Jordan clips. This is pre Last Dance, and they're like, no one cares about Jordan. I used to get made fun of for seeing Jordan live. I'm 33, by the way,
So am
and
I.
so yeah, I mean so Jordan like was huge. I'm like, Jordan's one of the best athletes ever, and they're like, no, it's not going to play for our audience, and they're right. They are absolutely right. And I go back and I think about it, and we saw this old footage in the doc. Like, what do old fans say? They're like, man, hand checking was more physical. Like, they had Barkley, Shaq, Malone, all these players to go up against. Like, I don't think it's better or worse. It's different for sure. The dominant center doesn't really exist that much anymore.
Nope.
Maybe it's coming back. Like our dominant centers can also shoot threes now. So to say it's worse is like, no, I would love to see if Shaq could shoot a three back then. Like, I don't have any opinion on whether it's better or worse. It is different. To say it's not different is false. Um, and I think it is physical. I think I don't hate on Harden for his innovation and getting to the basket. I don't think it's a travel. I think I think these things should evolve. I think people might have said that taking threes as much as these teams do is insane, but it's clearly worked with the Warriors. So
It works. Yeah,
if these
math is
things
math.
work, if Harden's not getting called for every travel, if centers are getting spread out more, or you're going no centers like the Rockets and they look as good as they do in these playoffs, that's not worse than the 90s. That's just a iteration of the game that is proving to work.
What do you think about the notion that players today are more skilled than players of yesteryear?
They're more skilled now.
Yeah.
I think yes. I mean, because if you're a player now, you got to watch all the greats. You get to take pieces of their game.
That's
That's why.
true.
That's why it is hard when people compare Kobe versus MJ, or even LeBron versus MJ, or LeBron versus Kobe. Is like they had the ability to watch them and obsess and study their game growing up. And I loved how that was. I wasn't that much of a Kobe fan because I thought
Really?
growing up
Oh
because
man.
I was just such a Jordan guy, and I was like
Gotcha.
Kobe is copying him, and I thought he was doing it like ruthlessly and not like attributing that he was getting that his game from him. But when I saw his interviews in The Last Dance, and he was like, "I am Kobe because of Jordan," like that's all I wanted, and I
Right.
think that's why I think LeBron. And if Kobe was here today, they would say that like I am this person because of the greats that I watched growing up. And I think Harden would say the same about Iverson. He would say the same about Jordan and like Jason Williams would have said the same about Pistol Pete and all. These players, they grab stuff from other players' games and they are better for it. One-on-one, I think, maybe Jordan, if he was to play LeBron, prime Jordan versus prime LeBron, if they had a best of 7 series one-on-one, Jordan by game 3, if he was getting dominated by LeBron, he would figure out something.
Really?
I think
you think his IQ's higher than LeBron's?
I don't think it's higher than LeBron's, but I think they both have incredible IQs, and that's why it's chess. It really is chess. Right. It's like they will try to figure out ways to beat each other, and it's in that best of game 7. It's whoever figures it out the fastest. And I think right now I would give it to Jordan. I would give it to Jordan and something like that. So seriously, yeah.
I mean, what about the? I mean, LeBron passed pretty much almost every physical advantage.
Yeah, right? Jordan, I think, would figure out ways to take that away from him, whether that's all perimeter shots in a one-on-one game, or I think he would figure something out the same way he felt his body not being able to fly or drive, so it was all fadeaways and pump fakes and less contact post moves. I think he would try to figure out something like that. Yeah,
that's interesting. I mean, that's an interesting, objectively wrong opinion, but I respect it.
No, but that's like, that's the fun of these discussions is like, I could listen to this podcast back in a few days. I'm like, man, I'm an idiot. Like,
right.
Cause I do that when I watch a LeBron game and I'm like, Jordan wasn't pulling up from like 8 feet behind the 3 and hitting these in crunch time. That's the thing is like you watch an old Jordan game, all 48 minutes of it. And sometimes he looks regular. He looks really regular and human. But we watch highlights constantly. So we do romanticize players' careers and abilities a lot more than we account for.
I mean, they're definitely both similar in the sense that at their peak physically, they were just like head and shoulders way just athletic freaks above everyone else. And then as they age and they sort of look more average athletically, they still have the basketball IQ to remain relevant. So like even in Jordan's later years, he wasn't the freak athlete that he was in the late 80s. And LeBron isn't the freak athlete that he was, even though he's still like super athletic, obviously.
Right. And also one-on-one is not an indicator of greatest basketball player ever as well. It's just like I would almost pick like a Dame Lillard to win it all over like the top 50 NBA players, or like even like a KD or like Paul George. I don't know. I've seen I used to watch a lot of those King of the Court clips from like Team USA. And it's impressive how some of these players play one-on-one. It's like, it's also being able to conserve their body because it's like a gauntlet, player after player.
Right.
So who knows? It all depends on the rules and the formatting of that.
I think one-on-one definitely also favors the bigger player usually, all other things being equal. You know what I mean? I think Iverson would have a really hard time beating Shaq in a one-on-one in their primes. Still think Iverson is the better player. Well, I don't know. That's debatable maybe. I don't know.
I mean, if Shaq was, if you were checking up, I don't know, Shaq would have to get down to that block though pretty fast. And if you're a smaller player and you're just trying to strip at the ball, it might be difficult, but I don't know.
I mean, Shaq could just step over Iverson and he's at the rim.
Totally.
And as far as speaking of yesteryear basketball versus today, of course, there's a whole, for some years now, the whole analytics era, which a lot of the the older heads don't like. Even people my age, I don't even really consider myself and all that, but
me neither.
But yeah, like, how do you feel about analytics? Do you feel like it's ruining the game? Do you think it's a great compliment to the game? Do you think?
I don't. I think for certain people, it's great. Obviously, like I like hearing the stories of like Moneyballing and like seeing it with the Rockets and whatnot, and I just don't. Yeah, numbers can only tell so much of the story, in my opinion. And that's why, and for me to pay attention to those numbers as closely as some other people do, it takes the fun out of it for me. Because, things happen and other things outside of stats happen in a game that can turn turn things a new way. You know, it's like there is no stat for Draymond kicking someone in the nuts and getting suspended in a series. You know, so
No, that's
so
true.
maybe the number there that they were supposed to pay attention to were the amount of technical
Technical,
fouls he
right,
made. You
right.
know, so maybe yeah, so that's an argument for numbers, but I just think it's all part of a much bigger story, and it is important and it does complement, but by far, by no means is it like the most important in my opinion.
Really, I think, yeah, I'm totally opposite. Again, I'm
Yeah,
gonna, uh,
no, it's great. Yeah, I would love to hear your reason.
yeah, I'm almost like, I'm like you, like totally obsessed with the analytic piece of basketball because to me, as far as especially when it comes to comparing players, comparing teams, making predictions, you can deep dive into numbers. And I think a lot of the problem is a lot of people look at basic stats like points per game and rebounds per game, field goal percentage, and they think they're sort of getting but that really is, you're barely scratching the surface with numbers like that.
Yeah,
Once you start getting into VORP and true shooting percentage and a lot of the deeper analytics, you can actually get I feel like, and even comparing players to not just empirically like what someone is scoring per game, but like what's their average compared to the league average. So you have context. I think like all of that gives you a deeper idea. So when you look at all those numbers and you break it down, that's why someone who says LeBron is better than Jordan, that's why they're objectively correct, because the numbers tend to size slightly with LeBron. Like, you know what I mean? Like as a very random example.
no,
Um,
I mean I'm gonna use it. I'll probably use it eventually. You've almost swayed me, so I'm like, yeah, just look at the numbers. I do love when I get in arguments with my friends and they just like say all the numbers, and I get that like hangover Zach Galifianakis equations meme,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I'm like, yeah, they have to be right, you know. But no, I mean it's hard to argue when you have hard concrete numbers as evidence. So you are right in that way for sure.
All right, now I am trying to get predictions out of everyone.
Yeah.
So, who are you predicting for this year? MVP, Most Improved Player, and Defensive Player of the Year.
I think it goes okay. I think it goes. I want it to be LeBron for MVP. I think it'll be Giannis. I think most improved will go to Luka, even though again there's some controversy over how that works. And I think six. Oh, did you say six man? Did you
No,
want
I
me to pick
did
a six
not, but that
man?
was an omission on my part.
I think Montrez deserves that.
Agree with that.
And let's see who is defensive. I think you give it to AD.
AD over Giannis.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
Um, Now, do you think that's because he's truly more deserving, or do you think they're just not going to give the same player?
Yeah, I just think Giannis is going to get MVP. That's the only reason why.
And right, and they're not going to give him
It's
both.
like, man, you ever watch the Oscars? I don't know if you're like a movie guy or whatever, but it's just like some of it, you see all these movies and you're like, that is no way the best movie. But man, the committee really wants to have a pat on the back for giving it to a great story about the director or the actor or whatever,
Right,
you know, what's
right.
going on in the current environment. So that's why I could see it going to LeBron as well. But yeah, that's what I think it'll be, not necessarily who I want it to be.
Why Luca for Most Improved Player though?
I just think they really someone was explaining it to me that he is making a jump from being a rookie and now in the playoffs, like what at the fourth or fifth, what are they, fifth seed? I don't even know, but like I just think it's a way for them to go, this guy, we can't give him the MVP, we can't give him like any other, this is the award to give this up and coming star player.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
I don't know if it does make sense now that I say it, but I'm like, man, they love names. They love, this will be what the mainstream isn't going to get mad at us about, not giving Luka an award.
Really, so you don't think Bam Adebayo?
Bam is great. Bam's an all-star. What did he what did he win last year? Didn't he win most improved before?
I don't think so. Now I kind of want to
No,
check.
he hasn't. No, he hasn't. But
Damn, you're
yeah,
right.
I just think Luka is the easier choice for them. And honestly, I haven't paid as much attention to Bam as I should. But like,
Uh huh.
Yeah, I just think Luca will get it. Just the way the things work, just the way the media works. Like, who votes for this shit? It's like sports writers who are looking for stories, looking for headlines, and there are more stories about an international player who looks like a boy who is carrying their team to a great spot in the West, and who is probably going to be a star for years to come.
Yeah, you might be right. I almost feel like he won't win just because he's too big of a name. He's
Well,
too big of
I
a
mean,
name
if he's almost too big of a name, why is he? And that's the argument that Twitter is having: is why is he up for most improved? Like, he was a star his rookie year.
Right, exactly. Which I feel like should sort of almost disqualify him from the discussion.
Yeah, and people talk about that too with Lou Williams, where it's like, why is he up for his sixth man again? Like, if you're so good, he should be in the starting lineup. And people are like, well, he's a liability on defense. Well, it's just like, well, then who's not a liability is Montrez, who has and like, how do you nominate two players from the same team for the sixth man award?
Right, one of them has to be the seventh man, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it's the way they use them, and again, like, that's why we should never go because they won this award. They are the most deserving because the rules and the guidelines for deciding what these awards mean are so blurred to me.
I know. Actually, I wrote a piece about that not too long ago. I think it should just all be automated, just all whatever criteria that you put into an algorithm and just spits out at the end of the year. These are the awards.
Exactly.
Of course, that might be less interesting for people, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably more honest or more objective, at least.
Yeah.
Well, all right, man. I really appreciate you taking the time. And did you want to plug anything before I let you go?
No, check out House of Highlights if you don't follow that already. And my wife and I's podcast, The Greatest, on iHeartRadio, that comes out every Tuesday. We have a new episode every week. And that's about it. Enjoy basketball. Stay safe, stay healthy, wear a mask. Let's get out of this thing and enjoy basketball.
I definitely co-sign that. Thank you so much, man.
All right. Thanks, Clint.
Bye. Thank you so much. You've been listening to the Baddest Ballers podcast. Please feel free to support whatever you can at patreon.com/baddestballers and also check out our YouTube channel.